Good evening. I'm Nisa Petrilli.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
And I am Sean Roman.
And this is On the Sports Lines for November 10th, 2016. This whole electing a president thing out of the way, let's focus on what's really important. First half reviews and second half previews for the Jets, Giants, and the rest of the NFL, debating the most recent college football playoff rankings, teams to watch as college basketball gets underway, and whether MLB has retaken the title of America's favorite sport away from the NFL. As always, we want to hear from you, so email us at fanspeak@onthesportslines.com, send your tweets to @onthesportslines, and your posts to facebook.com/onthesportslines. The Jets finished the first half at 3-6, last place in the Patriots-dominated AFC East. The Giants finished the first half at 5-3, second place in a very competitive NFC East. Our panel is going to look at the biggest first half highlight for each team and tell you what they should focus on as the second half gets underway for the Jets on Sunday and Monday night for the Giants. Jay, it's been a tough first half for the Jets.
You think?
Yeah,
It really has.
Has there been a highlight that you can point to?
It has been tough to find bright spots this season, but the guy that has kind of piqued my interest is Quincy Enunwa. When Eric Decker went out for the season, the Jets were not sure who was going to step up and fill that really large hole at wide receiver opposite Brandon Marshall. But I like what the third-year pro has done since being given the opportunity. He's done a pretty good job. So 37 catches, 527 yards, 14-plus yards a catch, 3 touchdowns. He's had a couple of 90-yard games and has been a solid weapon in the passing game for the Jets. What I like to see is catch percentage rise a little bit, sure. 37 catches on 63 targets, 59%. It's something he could improve upon a little bit, but considering how scattered-armed the Jets' quarterbacking has been this year, that's not bad at all. No. Now, he's shown some flashes of big playability and something the Jets have not had that much of this season. And in a season where not much has gone right, I think they've found the guy who's going to be the third guy in the top 3 of that wide receiver rotation for a few years.
True. Well, Steve, solid first half for the Giants. What's the biggest highlight in your opinion?
Well, to me, Nisa, I think it's definitely a guy who has a nickname, ODB. And we're not talking about the rapper in this case. That would be Odell Beckham. He has been terrific this year. Yeah, his personality is a little bit crazy at times, a little bit wacky at times, but this is a guy who has been tremendous this year. He had one game this year for over 200 yards of receiving yardage. I believe that may have been against the Redskins, but he really has been the spark plug because Eli Manning hasn't been as sharp as we're normally used to seeing. Victor Cruz, considering the injuries he's had, he's actually played very well.
Yeah.
And you know the Giants have virtually no running game to speak of. So this has been the guy who has, in my opinion, been their best player.
Though Sterling Shepard's been nice.
Yes, he's definitely shown a lot.
He's got promise.
He's got some serious skill.
True. Well, Sean, give me one second half point of focus for the Jets and give me one for the Giants as well.
You know, I'm really glad that whole Ryan Fitzpatrick thing got worked out when it did. I'm trying to think if that led to just some sort of uneven flow with the Jets because they were a strong unit. I mean, they played very well in their 10-6 season. They were exciting to watch last year. And not resolving that, I think, teaches them a lesson. If you can't resolve it early enough to get the captain of your offense in line, cut him, replace him, or sign him. Otherwise, you don't have a cohesive unit, and I think that really hurt them. And now they are the same old Jets.
Yes.
I think their season is pretty much behind them right now. I don't think they're fighting for that 6th playoff spot, so I think they virtually... You know, I want to watch the development of Bryce Petty, and I don't think it's a good idea to put him in right now. They are playing the Rams, which is a winnable game. So with Fitzpatrick, I can see them winning that games, but I would hate to throw Petty in against the Patriots the following week. If the Jets happen to lose 2 games in a row, that's when you start to go with Petty.
Right.
And the Giants?
The Giants, I'm looking at Eli Manning in his 12th and 13th season right now, the most consistent quarterback and the most durable quarterback in the NFL. Very underrated to live over a decade in the New York spotlight and to go with the disposition he had is really unheralded and very impressive. And with his 2 Super Bowl wins, he has made all these receivers a lot better than they are. Think of these names. Larry Donnell, how you mentioned before, Sterling Sharp, Beckham Jr. is his star, and now a pretty much injury-prone Victor Cruz. He has a lot of tools, and he makes the players around him better, so I'm looking forward to seeing more development on that offensive front.
All right.
I agree. Well, the first half of the 2016 NFL season was filled with teams that surprised and teams that disappointed. What will the second half bring? We're going to look at the most surprising team of the first half, the most disappointing team of the first half, and the team to watch in the second half. Steve, which team pleasantly surprised you in the first half?
You know, for the first time in over a decade, it's a nice thing to say that the Oakland Raiders are actually very relevant for a change. This team has been one of the worst teams in the NFL for at least 10 years.
Yep.
They've been the joke of the league for quite a long time, but toward the end of last year, I saw them starting to turn around and really started with Derek Carr at quarterback. He has been a tremendous asset to that team. And he's actually the brother of David Carr, who was the first-round draft pick of the Houston Texans. So there's actually some legacy connected, obviously, with those two. When you look at him, you look at their running back, who was very good even last year as they were starting to turn it around, Latavius Murray. The wide receivers they have are unquestionably perhaps the 2 best in the league at this point. Amari Cooper is a tremendous wide receiver, drafted number 4, I believe, last year. And Michael Crabtree, who played for the 49ers.
He's resurrected his career.
He really has, because before that he was at best mediocre as a wide receiver. And the one guy I should also mention on defense that's really meant a lot to this team, Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
This is a guy I wish the Giants had somehow been able to get in the draft, because he's really become a run stopper. He's aggressive, getting after the quarterback, and combine that with Jack Del Rio, who's an excellent coach, had a lot of experience as an assistant and a head coach, and now you're looking at a 7-2 team.
Yeah.
So, Jay, which team was the most disappointing in the first half?
You know, I had to just kick this around for myself. It was a toss-up between the team I had actually picked to come out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl, and that was the Cardinals.
Yes.
And the team that actually went from the NFC last year, the Panthers. I ultimately had to go with the Panthers. I mean, coming off that magical 15-1 season, you got the reigning MVP in Cam Newton, primed to be the next face of the NFL. Their only loss in free agency was cornerback Josh Norman. There's no way this team should be 3-5 and struggling in the NFC South, and needing to win their last 2 to even get to 3-5.
Wow.
Offense has been inconsistent. Yeah, they're averaging 25.5 points a game, this 9th in the NFL, but it's feast or famine. You got 4 games of 30 or more. You got 3 games of 20 or less. The defense is allowing almost 26 a game. That's 23rd in the NFL. They've allowed 2 40-point games, both of them in divisional losses to the Falcons and the Saints, 48 to Atlanta, 41 to New Orleans. Cam Newton hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been the same player he was a year ago. He seems to spend more time accusing the NFL about not calling penalties on the hits he's taking than he does actually making plays for this team. Is the season salvageable? Maybe, but here's the schedule. They are looking up at the NFC South. They have games against the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Seahawks, as well as rematches with the Saints and the Falcons. Not looking good.
No.
Sean, who is the team to watch in the second half?
Well, I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills for this reason. The feather in the cap that they have through the first half of the season is that they are the only team to beat the best team in the league, which is the Patriots. I judge a coach, Rex Ryan gets a lot of criticism, but it's not like they have a roster of stars.
No.
I judge a coach based on what you get out of the players that you are dealt.
Yeah.
And I think that Rex Ryan and his brother have overall done well, and they'll be in contention for getting that last playoff spot. Think about it. Buffalo has not been in the playoffs for a decade and a half at this point. And they beat the Patriots this year. They played the Seahawks to the very, very end last week. That was a huge game for them. A 1-game shift would have meant a lot. They've lost 3 tough games in a row. They've lost to the Patriots. You got to give the Patriots that. It was a tough loss for them to Miami, and they almost beat Seattle. I expect them to have a very strong second half and fight for that 6th playoff spot in the NFC.
Wow.
Ain't it great that this year in the NFL, both the Cowboys and the Raiders are relevant again?
Yes,
Seriously.
definitely.
Love them or hate them, it makes the NFL
Yeah, it
more
makes the
interesting.
NFL that
It
much
does.
better.
Well, the most recent college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday. With less than a month left in the regular season, it seems a perfect time for our panel to weigh in on who is a lock, who is the weak link, and who might crash the party by season's end. Steve, the team with the strongest playoff resume in the top 4 is?
Well, that's definitely got to be Alabama.
Roll Tide!
I mean, this team for years, we're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8 years, their defense is unquestionably the best in college football.
Yep.
And frankly, to me, it's more a question of Alabama and everybody else, because really nobody's challenged them. First game of the season, they obliterated USC. Sorry to say that, Jay, but it's true. 56-3, if I remember correctly. They beat LSU last week, shut them out in their building, 10-0. Bombed Texas A&M, who came in at number 4 at the time. And I really don't see who can beat this team. Even the quarterback position, which was questionable at the beginning of the year, Jalen Hurts has now become a serious dual threat, running and throwing the ball.
Position.
And so now, I mean, unless somebody upsets them, maybe in Auburn or somebody like that, I really don't think they'll lose this year at this rate. Sad to say.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I agree.
sad to say.
Jay, the team with the weakest playoff resume in the top 4 is?
Well, you know, how a team that's undefeated can be a weak link. Well, despite being 9-0, the Huskies are, it's the Washington Huskies. They're in a Pac-12 that's overall in a down year. Their Saturday night game against number 20 USC, team on a 5-game winning streak after a 1-3 start, gives them a chance to actually notch that signature win that's missing from their resume. Currently, all the teams that they've previously beaten who are ranked are no longer ranked. So, and the only other remaining team on their schedule after USC that's ranked is Washington State at number 23. They'll play in the season finale.
That's a great game always.
Oh, always, without a doubt.
Yes.
You know, now, the question is, do they need to run the table in the Pac-12 all the way through the conference championship in order to stay top 4? I have to say yes, especially since number 5 Ohio State is nipping at their heels. The big team has 4 teams in the top 10. Ohio State plus, Michigan at 3, Wisconsin at 7, Penn State at 10. That's how strong and deep the Big Ten is this year. Buckeyes are 1-1 against the other 2, still have their annual season finale against Michigan, which, Sean, as you and I were talking about, could be a play-in game for one of those spots. And here's the thing. They could very easily jump the Huskies. Ohio State could. If they beat Michigan, and if the Huskies lose to USC or anywhere else along the line, Ohio State, Michigan is going to be the game to determine who gets that 4th spot, and that game is in Columbus this year, guys.
Oh, wow.
So, Sean, which team outside the top 4 is most likely to crash the party?
Well, I want to address Jay's point for a second, because I do think, in a sense, that Michigan-Ohio State game is a play-in game.
It probably will be.
Penn State came back from years sort of on the back burner. Huge win on their whiteout night.
Yes,
if
sir.
they win out, they beat Michigan State, they don't have to play Michigan this season because there's so many teams in the Big Ten. Be a 3-way tie.
Will make for interesting.
It could be Penn State that wins the Big Ten, their side of it. But I am picking outside the Big Ten. I am going with number 9 right now, the Auburn Tigers. In the last 6 weeks, I haven't found a more impressive team in terms of one rising from where they were. They have 2 losses. The first was to Clemson, the other was to A&M. Those are 2 quality losses. They have to play their great rival Georgia this week. Then they got a patsy. Then they play Alabama. They both might be. It might be a 1 versus 6 or 7 type of scenario by that point. And Auburn has lost 2 competitive games in a row to Alabama. They will be up for that game, and the momentum will be on that side because it is just so tense, and that's just such a beautiful rivalry. So I could actually see them pulling out that game, and if they win the SEC West, they're going to be the team that overtakes Alabama, I think.
Maybe.
I don't think you can have 2 SEC teams. I don't think you could throw Alabama in there. That's their playoff.
There's still
So I
so
think it's
many,
gonna be
so
over.
many possibilities
And they
still
got
out
a very
there.
good
which is
quarterback,
great.
A lot
Sean
of good
White,
games
and a great
ahead.
running back who's leading the SEC as well.
Yes, a lot of good games coming up for sure. The 2016 college basketball season tipped off this week. Blue blood programs Duke, Kentucky, and Kansas are 1, 2, and 3 in one form or another on just about every preseason poll. With that in mind, we're going to look at 3 teams who could give the top 3 a run for their money come March. Sean, what other teams should we be watching as the march to the madness begins?
Well, the champions from Philadelphia, Villanova, are no doubt a team to watch. Most analysts have them being in the top 5 the entire season. The core of their team is absolutely returning. A lot of people think Josh Hart is going to be this year's Buddy Hield. They have an excellent supporting cast. 3 of their 5 starters are back. I mean, why wouldn't you think they'd be in a number 1 seed with just that alone? They have Phil Booth coming back, who scored 20 in the championship game. He did go through knee surgery, so we'll have to see how he develops.
Yep.
And you have excellent supporting role in Chris Jenkins, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges. So Villanova is definitely going to be a team to reckon with and going for a 2nd straight championship.
Well, I'm going to be looking at the Oregon Ducks. This is a veteran team coming off a 31-7 season, 14-4 Pac-12 regular season and conference champions. They made an elite run last year, definitely deserving of the preseason number 4 ranking they have, and they are expected to get at least that far this season. Plenty of talent at all the positions. Start with power forward Chris Boucher, who's 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks per game. You got 2-guard Tyler Dorsey, 13 points, and he shoots over 40% from beyond the arc. They have a solid point guard in Casey Benson, and they get a healthy Dylan Ennis back to be their Swiss Army knife in the backcourt. But the key for them, and this is where they turn one way or another, is the return to health of their best player, small forward Dylan Brooks. He's been out since August with foot surgery. His return date right now is TBD, sometime November or December, and even when he gets back, the question is will he be the same dynamic, do everything forward he was last season? 16-plus points a game, 5-plus rebounds, 3-plus assists. If he's back, and if he is the same guy they had last year, this is a Final Four team with a chance to bring the title to the Pacific Northwest. If he's not, the Ducks could be a one-and-done come March.
How true. Well, for me, one thing I've learned when you talk about Rick Pitino is he's a great coach, and even when his teams aren't ranked in the top 5, he can still pull off some surprises. You have to look at Louisville. Now, they are in the Associated Press, they're ranked 13th. In the USA Today poll, they're ranked 14th. Look at their roster. I mean, they have a guy, Mankong Mathayang. He comes off their bench, but he's probably their most consistent shot blocker. And you look at the rest of their team, they have a good, solid team. Quentin Snyder, Jay Henderson, Jale Johnson, and Matt Stockman. And he's also a very good player. He's their center, 7-footer out of Norway. But the player to watch for is the McDonald's All-American. They have J.K. King. This is a freshman guard who averaged 22 points at the high school level. And if he plays anywhere close to that at this level, they might surprise a lot of people. And he always has a way of getting his teams going.
He does. Don't count him out. They are preseason top 10.
So the NFL's TV ratings are declining at an unprecedented rate, while Major League Baseball is coming off one of the most popular World Series it's had in years. With that in mind, we pose this question for debate by our panel. Has baseball taken back the title of America's favorite sport from football?
Sean, lead us off.
I think it never lost a title in this sense. I think the special moments in baseball transcend any of the other special moments in any of the other sports. I love watching the Islanders. I'm a diehard fan. I love those giant victories in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. But there is nothing in American sports like the Cubs winning and after 108 years, those lovable losers finally getting done. The 86 Mets and Mookie Wilson and what that meant. The Red Sox a few years ago breaking the curse of the Bambino. In the 70s when Chris Chambliss hit the home run and everybody storms him and he has to fight his way to home plate. All these moments, and I could come up with a laundry list of more.
You and me both.
Yes.
Absolutely make it a unique and special sport in American history. I think they're always number one, and a game like this just highlights why that is. And I understand NFL has the viewers. Why? It's on Sunday. Most of us are off from work. We can all gather together, watch fantasy football. But again, the special moments are just not the same as they are in baseball.
Stephen.
You know, I agree with a lot of what Sean says, but I'll take it a little in a different light. one of the things that I really don't like about football are the commercials. There are just an insane amount of commercials.
Much more stoppages of play.
Absolutely. Every play, every injury, every chance they get to have a timeout, that's part of the reason the sport is starting to decline in interest.
Well, that's why you got to watch on the NFL Red Zone channel.
And I do that
That's what I do.
occasionally.
Or as we call it, crack for NFL
That's what
fans.
I do. No commercials.
And here's the other thing: the
saying.
ridiculous number of penalties that are called with
That
all
is
the
true.
instant replays. That is just insane. And when I was growing up, baseball definitely was the #1 sport. I think it's starting to inch its way back. And I think, to Sean's point, when you talk about the Cubs-Indians World Series, that was one of the most exciting World Series I've ever seen, short of probably the Mets '86 series. I know I'm biased in saying it, but
It's okay.
I think it's valid. And I think when you look at baseball and the exciting moments that come up almost unexpectedly, like Kyle Schwarber, who literally was out for 6.5 months recovering from ACL surgery, comes into the World Series ice cold and gets a double off the wall against one of the best pitchers in the game, in Corey Kluber. And the guy was, I believe, 6 for 17 in the World Series.
Yep.
So for me, baseball is gradually catching up to football. I would say football is just a shade ahead, but baseball's on its way back.
I'll tell you this. All right. We all know I'm the analytics guy, so I'm going to get these numbers out of the way real quick. The NFL's television ratings are down 19% for Sunday night, 24% for Monday night, 18% for Thursday night for the first 7 weeks compared to last year, according to the Washington Post. Major League Baseball, Game 7 between the Indians and the Cubs drew 40 million viewers. That's the most for a World Series since 50-plus million people watched Game 7 between the Braves and the Twins in '91, which, maybe until this year, was widely considered one of the greatest World Series in history.
Okay.
Now, to me, does that equate to a shift in our national culture in terms of national pastime? I don't know if I'd go that far. Look, the NFL has issues, no doubt. The product on the field's been lacking in marquee feel. The divide between the players and the commissioner's office is as bad as it's ever been. Colin Kaepernick's protest probably plays into it for some fans. But has baseball taken back the title that it's held for so long? I don't know. Look, baseball was my first sports love, okay? My very first sports memory is being 5 years old, sitting between my uncle and cousin, watching the '73 World Series between the A's and the Mets. Steve, you'll probably remember it a lot better than I do. Look, I'm a diehard Yankees fan. I've been blessed with several World Series in my lifetime. Flip side, I'm a diehard fan for two of the most significant and successive franchises, the Steelers and the Giants. So I've seen several Super Bowls between them in my lifetime. Baseball's a 162 season game grind that's an acquired taste. Football is 1/10 the commitment with more action, appeals to other fans. But I'll tell you this, no matter what you come down to, baseball will always equal America for me.
All right.
I disagree. It's football all the way because you're comparing World Series ratings to NFL regular season ratings. You need to be comparing Super Bowl to World Series if you want to get an accurate comparison, in my opinion. But that music means it's time for the 3-minute warning. Sean, lead us off.
I thought it was fitting that when the Cubs won their first World Series since Theodore Roosevelt was president, they did it out of state. You see, it's those talented players that Theo Epstein put together, which made the team betting favorites all year, that are the transients here. It's the people of Chicago that deserve this special moment to themselves. In a majestic finale, with ebbs and flows and rain interruptions, when victory became apparent, Cubs fans descended onto the streets of Chicago and congregated at the premier temple in baseball to give thanks and praise to a truly historic moment in American history. The young people who embraced the lovable team blended with elderly Americans who remembered seeing the Cubs fail throughout the years, even in the World Series in the 40s, 30s, and some in their 90s in the 1920s. The November night that the Cubs won was Chicagoans alone.
Baseball Writers Association of America 2016 AL Cy Young candidates. What about Aaron Sanchez? Yesterday on the MLB Network, I heard the list of Cy Young candidates: Rick Porcello, Justin Verlander, two starting pitchers that had exceptional years. But how the heck did Zach Britton of the Orioles get on this list? Perhaps he could be an MVP candidate or Fireman of the Year, but not a Cy Young Award winner in my opinion. What about Toronto Blue Jays ace Aaron Sanchez? How could someone 15-2 and led the league in ERA at 3 be left off the list altogether? And when did this voting become a popularity contest? It's about talent. Yet this jerky committee left out Sanchez altogether. Isn't it time the committee get it right for once and put arguably the best pitcher on the AL on the list, as exactly where he belongs on the pantheon of star performers?
Ever since Pittsburgh quarterback Ben Roethlisberger injured his MCL on October 16, the question on Steeler Nation's mind was how soon he'd be back after surgery. Based on the original projection, he'd be out until late November. But when he spent the week leading up to the Ravens game taking most of the reps at practice, fans got giddy at the prospect of him starting against the hated division rival. Big Ben played, though not well, and the Steelers lost 21-14. Was he rusty or not physically ready to come back? Did head coach Mike Tomlin go against his better judgment and let Roethlisberger talk him into starting instead of backup Landry Jones? Was offensive coordinator Todd Haley too conservative with the offense due to concerns about Ben? Or was it the 13 penalties in a defense that can neither cover anyone nor generate a pass rush? I sarcastically posed the theory that since Ben's record in first games back from injury is 2-6, Tomlin figured it'd be okay to risk making that record worse against a Ravens team that Pittsburgh, on paper, should beat even with Roethlisberger less than 100%, so that the rust would be gone in time for this week's game against the 7-1 Cowboys. If the Steelers are to right a ship that has been listing for a while now, they'll need Ben to be Ben. But to say that his return is the magic bullet that will save this season is myopic at best. I bleed black and gold, but my glasses stopped being rose-colored a long time ago.
Game 7 of the World Series was one of the best baseball games ever played.
Woo.
It had everything. The two teams with the largest championship droughts in MLB history, the Cubs coming back from a 3-1 series deficit, an 8th-inning comeback by the Indians to tie up the game, extra innings, a rain delay with the game tied going into the 10th. The tension and anxiety was palpable, and we were all on the edge of our seats watching these two teams. These two teams were very evenly matched, but in the end, the Cubs had a few more hits and slightly stronger pitching than the Indians. The city of Chicago finally got the celebration fans have literally waited a lifetime for. The curse of the Cubs has been broken after 108 years.
Woohoo!
And the Indians came so close to ending their own 68-year drought, but came up just a little short. It would have been really special for Cleveland fans to have the Cavs and Indians win titles in the same year, especially after suffering for so long. But the Cubs were the team of destiny this time. They fought hard and deserved the win. This was without a doubt the best World Series Game 7 ever. An instant classic that'll be remembered for a long time to come.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. Yes.
For Jay Kaplan, Steve Ferguson, and Sean Roman, I'm Nisa Petrilli. Thanks for spending part of your evening with us. We'll see you on December 8th for another edition of On the Sports Lines. Remember, if you want to see this show again or catch up on any of the ones you might have missed, check us out at youtube.com/onthesportslines and check out our blog at onthesportslines.blogspot.com. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.